Hello everyone and welcome into today's video. I am so excited for this video today because we get to sit here and talk about Clone Wars Season 1 and Season 2 arcs. If you are new to my channel, my name is KL and I just recently watched all of the Star Wars films for the very first time. Comments that were left on all 11 videos pointed to the Clone Wars. I was recommended this show by so many people, so I immediately got to work with watching it as soon as the films were done. I put them up as exclusive reactions over on my Patreon. A bunch of you joined me over there to rewatch the show through my eyes, and it has been so fun talking about the show with you all. I understand that not everyone has the means to be able to support on Patreon, so that's what this video is today. This video is going to cover all of the arcs that I've seen so far. We're going to talk about every single episode pretty briefly. I'll let you know kind of my overall thoughts. I will let you know how I rank the episode. I'm going to have a tier maker list up on the screen, and I will let you know what I think of the episode in terms of where it ranks. Just my opinion, of course, and I will also include a handful of reaction moments from my reaction videos in this video today. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for watching. And if you are interested in joining me and many others over on my Patreon to watch full reactions to the show, click on the link in the corner or the link is in the description. Come join us over there. It's so much fun and it really helps support me and the channel. Before I begin discussing the show with you all today, I'm so excited to announce that I have my very first sponsor for the channel today, and this video is sponsored by BetterHelp. As a Canadian, I thought that BetterHelp was only available to folks that lived in the United States, so color me surprised when BetterHelp reached out to me about this sponsorship and collaboration and told me, oh no, you can use it as a Canadian, that's totally fine. Here you go. Do you want to try it? And I was like, hell yes, I want to try it. I've been using BetterHelp now for a few weeks and I am kicking myself for not having signed up sooner. I've been attending therapy regularly since the fall of 2020, and even though I am not someone who is formally diagnosed with anything, therapy has still been a massive help for me to unpack my childhood, to talk about stressful and rough experiences that I've been through, and to learn a lot about myself. I truly think that therapy is for everyone. Even if you don't think you need it, I guarantee that you will benefit from it. If you are someone who is also struggling like I do sometimes and you don't know where to turn to, you're not alone. It's really hard to take that first step into therapy sometimes, and I totally understand and empathize with that. BetterHelp is a very easy platform to sign up to and start using, and you can do it all right from your phone if you want. It's a very convenient and customized online therapy platform that offers video, phone, and live chat sessions with your therapist. They have a network of over 20,000 therapists, and you will easily find someone who is right for you. Just remember that all the therapists do live in the United States, so if you live in a different continent, you just want to keep time zones in mind. The most appealing features of BetterHelp to me is the fact that I can message my therapist in a text-based way at any time, and she will reply to me as soon as she can. We don't have to schedule live chat sessions together. We don't have to talk over video. We don't have to talk over voice. The other incredible feature of BetterHelp is the journal. The journal is a feature where you can go in and type to your heart's content. You can either pick a prompt that BetterHelp gives you, or you can just start typing whatever you like, and you have the option to either keep that journal entry private or you can share it with your therapist. I love the journal feature in particular because I find that when I schedule live therapy sessions, I all of a sudden blank on what I want to talk about. So when an idea hits me at 3 in the morning and I just want to talk about something, I can go in, type in that journal, and send it to my therapist. And that is flexibility that I just truly have never had before, and I am loving that feature. If you're interested in trying out BetterHelp and joining over 2 million other folks just like you who need that little bit of help in life, you can sign up today and get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/KL. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/KAIIELLE. 2 I's, 2 L's, 2 E's. Don't mistype it. And signing up is super easy. There's a questionnaire that you complete that assesses your specific needs and what you're looking for help with. You can also answer what specifically you're looking for in a therapist. There is a therapist out there for everyone. And if you start with a therapist and they don't meet your needs, you can request a new therapist at any time at no additional charge. Thank you again to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. Thank you so much for providing my viewers with discounted therapy for their first month. I appreciate it very much. With that, it is officially time to start discussing Clone Wars. Thank you so much for being here today. So, the Clone Wars show kicks off with the Battle of Christophsis arc, which consists of 2 Clone Wars episodes and the full-length film called Clone Wars. Cat and Mouse is the very first episode, and in this one, Obi-Wan and Anakin need to deliver supplies to Christophsis, which is under Separatist control, and they happen to run into Commander Admiral Trench from the Separatists while doing this. While this episode wasn't super exciting, especially relative to other episodes in the very near future, this was still a great introductory episode for me. We love a good space battle with a super unique enemy, an enemy that is a species that I have never seen before, and I was genuinely surprised by the ending of this episode. I love 3D animation over 2D, so this show already speaks to me and is very appealing to me. And I was also pleasantly surprised by the voice actors for both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin. I think that James Arnold Taylor and Matt Lanter are perfect for these roles. And I won't lie, it's actually really nice hearing Anakin sound more mature, especially since we kick off the show seeing him in the role of General and knowing that he does have a Padawan later on and is referred to as Master Skywalker. On the tier list, I'm placing this at the C level. It was enjoyable, but certainly not memorable. The middle part of this story arc is Hidden Enemy, where we find Anakin and Obi-Wan discovering evidence of a traitor amongst their ranks. They suspect it's a Sith, but clone troopers Rex and Cody discover information that leads them to a spy within their crew. I found this episode a lot more engaging than Cat and Mouse. We had an awesome story about betrayal, and this was the first episode where we really got to see the clone troopers' individual personalities on display for the first time. We really didn't get a whole lot of this in the movies, so this just had me really excited for the show. And in this episode, we also got to meet Ventress. I love her as an enemy, I enjoy her voice actress, and I think she's really intriguing. So on the tier list, I am placing this episode at the B level. To wrap up this story arc, I had to sit down and watch the film called The Clone Wars. In this movie, Jabba the Hutt's son is kidnapped and puts out a call for help, and the Jedi end up being the ones to rescue him while having to dodge the Separatists while doing so. So my immediate thoughts after watching this movie was that it should have been called something else. The story in this film was so particular and so specific that simply just calling it The Clone Wars just made no sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to me. I did like that we finally got to meet Ahsoka. Her name is a name that I've heard so many times now. I also really appreciated that original actors from the films came back to voice their characters in this film. While it was entertaining enough, to me it was forgettable, and it's not really something that I would ever place super high on the list. So on the tier list, I am placing this movie at the D level. Unfortunately, it's not listed as an option on this particular tier list that I'm using, so just pretend it's there. Next up is an episode called Clone Cadets, which is the single episode that makes up the Domino Squad Part 1 story arc. This episode focuses on 5 clone troopers who struggle to complete their training on Kamino. These clones are Heavy, Cut Up, Droid Bait 5s, and Echo. This episode had me so giddy because it was finally an episode that focused on the clone troopers specifically, and that was it. I got to see how the training goes. I learned that clones give each other nicknames and also differentiate themselves a little bit physically from one another, which also gives them some visual personality as well. And I got to see them work together, which is super fun. I will say that I absolutely hated Brick in this episode though. That dude can go touch some fucking grass. On the tier list of Clone Wars episodes, this episode belongs at the B level. The Toydaria duology is the next story arc and kicks off with an episode called Supply Lines, and in this episode, Ryloth is under siege, and Jedi Master Dai and Cham Syndulla are trapped on the surface. Bail Organa and Jar Jar Binks head to the planet to try and convince King Katunko to send aid to Ryloth. Meanwhile, Lot Dodd of the Trade Federation works to prevent the Toydarians from giving up their neutrality. Overall, this episode didn't get me too excited, but I did appreciate how political this episode was, and I loved the similarities overall to The Phantom Menace and the political aspects of that film. I will say that the emotional impact that hit me at the end of this episode was unexpected, and I do like the episode for that. On this tier list, I am placing this one at the D level, and I figure I should just let you all know that there is not going to be a single episode that appears on the F level because I am loving the show too much and I enjoy even the weaker episodes. So yeah. The episode called Ambush wraps up this duology, and we see Jedi Master Yoda head out on a secret mission to forge a treaty with King Katunko. Unfortunately, Ventress gets in his way. Y'all, this episode was so much more engaging for me, simply because I love fighting Yoda, and you guys know this if you watched my reactions to the films. We certainly got a lot of that in this episode, so it is A++. We also got some more rapport building and relationships between the 3 clones that were with Yoda, Thyre, Jack, and Rice or Riss. I can't remember how to pronounce it. And of course, we got some more screen time with Dooku and Ventress, which is always good. This episode for me was so enjoyable, and it was my most favorite episode up at that point, so I am placing this as an A on the tier list. The next story arc is the Malevolence trilogy, which starts with Rising Malevolence. In this episode, there is a mystery weapon by the Separatists that terrorizes the clone Starfleet. Anakin and Ahsoka end up in a race to save Master Plo Koon and the clone troopers that are with him. I loved this episode for the relationship building and depth that we got between Anakin and Ahsoka. I absolutely love seeing how they work together and how they communicate with each other. I love the whole Snips and Sky Guy nicknames that they have for each other. It's just so cute. And more General Grievous is always a good time. The highlight of this episode was definitely Anakin and Ahsoka trying to avoid detection from Grievous. The coloring of the planet in the background and all the debris around it was just really cool to see visually. So while this is a good episode, for me, it is not particularly memorable, even though I did love it. So for that reason, I am placing this at the D level. The next episode in this arc is Shadow of Malevolence, and in this one, we see Anakin wanting to go after Grievous and attack his ship, which is called the Malevolence. Anakin decides to lead a bold mission towards him and into enemy territory. So this was 100% a battle episode, and that's totally fine. It was really great seeing Anakin in charge, and while he was successful in getting Grievous to retreat, it did come at the cost of a lot of men, which is always unfortunate. I really enjoy battle episodes, and this one in particular goes on the C level for me. Wrapping up this trilogy is an episode called Destroy Malevolence, and in this one we see Padme and 3PO taken hostage by General Grievous, with Obi-Wan and Anakin coming to the rescue. I loved this episode because we got another duel between Grievous and Obi-Wan, and for me, it just felt like Revenge of the Sith all over again, and I love that. I also really enjoyed that we had some story focus on Padme and 3PO. I really love the voice actress for Padme in this show, and of course, Anthony Daniels returning to play 3PO was so great for me to hear and see. I was also super thrilled to see the Malevolence get destroyed because that meant that Grievous lost a little bit of credibility with Dooku, and I mean, he's the enemy, so. This particular episode was definitely the highlight of the trilogy for me, so with that, I will place it at the B level on my tier list. The next arc in the Clone Wars Season 1 is the single episode arc called Rookies that makes up Domino Squad Part 2. This is another clone-focused episode where we see Commander Cody and Captain Rex inspire the rookie clones to believe in themselves to stave off a droid invasion. These rookie clones are the same ones from the earlier Domino Squad episode. We've got Heavy, Echo, Fives, Droid Bait, and Cut Up.
We'll be the judge of that. Prepare for our arrival.
Roger, roger.
Something's not right here.
They literally just said Roger, Roger. That's like the biggest fucking clue.
Don't forget about those giant eels. I've never seen them.
Ah! No. No! Oh, Kata, rest in peace. Oh my god. This episode didn't make me cry, but it definitely hit me hard because we lost Heavy, Droid Bait, and Cut Up, and I had really come to like them. I think Heavy's death hit the hardest because he ultimately chose to sacrifice himself. Overall, this was a fantastic episode. I thought it was super engaging, super fun, and it involved our good friend Grievous once again. This episode, guys, this one's an A for me. I would easily rewatch this one, and I'll probably not cry next time. The next arc in Season 1 is called The Rescue of R2-D2. What? An arc that is focused on our good boy R2? We love to see it. In this first episode called Downfall of a Droid, R2 is lost during a space battle, and Anakin is equipped with a replacement droid called R3-S6. R2 does hold important Jedi military secrets within him though, so R3, Anakin, and Ahsoka go on a mission to find R2 and bring him home. This episode surprised me because never in a million years would I have ever expected R2 to become lost. That being said, this was a great episode to continue the rapport and relationship building and depth between Anakin and Ahsoka. I will admit that in this episode, it was really bothering me how Anakin was treating R3, but then I would soon realize that that was kind of for a good reason, so it's okay in the end. This episode was enjoyable, so I am giving it a B on the tier list. To wrap up this duology, we watched Duel of the Droids, and we get the ultimate rescue mission when Anakin and Ahsoka find out that R2 is at Grievous's secret enemy listening post, and what an episode. Wait, Goldie?
Report Agent R3. The Jedi are here. Delay them until I arrive.
Oh wait, was that a...
Goldie, where are you?
Sound the alarm.
What are you doing back here? Come on!
I absolutely loved the duel between Ahsoka and Grievous, and I am shocked that she took him on by herself. Also, seeing R2 and R3 battle each other was incredible and also hilarious and just overall wonderful. I feel like this episode in particular, and really the whole duology, it really cements the relationship that Anakin and R2 have together. It broke my heart that Obi-Wan and Ahsoka came from the mindset of it's just a droid and we don't need to risk lives over a droid. I understand why they say that, I do, but I am definitely on Anakin's side with this, and that droids are amazing and we need to save them. This episode is another one that I would easily rewatch 1,000 times over, so I am giving it an A rating. The next arc in season 1 is a trilogy called The Capture of Nute Gunray, and in the first episode called Bombad Jedi, we see Padme get captured by an old friend and Republic senator called Anaconda Farr. Jar Jar Binks senses that Padme is in trouble and disguises himself as a Jedi to help rescue her, along with the aid of 3PO. Friends, this episode was by far the silliest that we've watched so far. But with Jar Jar as a focus, it makes sense why it would be silly. I will say that this isn't a bad thing though. I still enjoyed this episode. I had fun watching it. I will say that it was nice to kind of have a break in the more serious episodes with something silly like this. I also did appreciate that we had a whole episode centered around Padme and her relationships and her work. With all that said, this episode to me is still very much forgettable, so it is going to go on the D level for me. Continuing in this arc, we watch Cloak of Darkness, and we see the captured Nute Gunray get escorted to trial by Ahsoka and Luminara, but Ventress has been sent to free him. I loved more Ventress in this episode. Yes, please. I also like that we got to meet Luminara. I think the relationship between Luminara and Ahsoka was wonderful and great. Love those scenes, and I immediately became more eager to see more. Eager to see more. Yes. My favorite scene in this episode was the two of them fighting Ventress in that red pipey room. Super cool. And the droid that was in that room was adorable and fun. While this episode was enjoyable, it was also mostly forgettable for me, so as a result, I am placing it on the C line on this tier list. To close off this trilogy, we watch Lair of Grievous, and in this episode, we see Grievous having to prove himself worthy as a separatist. Dun dun dun. This episode was enjoyable to me, and I liked it because it really showed us just how incompetent Grievous is. We don't get a chance to see that in Revenge of the Sith. Obviously, yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi bests him in that movie, but Grievous is very threatening in Revenge of the Sith. He's very menacing, and I'm really enjoying this show for giving us more depth to him as an enemy. I did really like his lair. I thought it was a very neat location and a neat setup. For Lair of Grievous, I am also going to give this episode a C on the tier list. Up next is a duology called Dooku Duology, and in this first episode called Dooku Captured, Anakin and Obi-Wan try to capture Dooku and realize that he's already been captured by pirates. So this is the first episode that we meet Hondo and his pirate gang, and they're really cool. I personally think they're an enjoyable and unique bunch, even though they obviously are not the nicest of folks. I just think it's really neat seeing what pirates look like in the Star Wars universe. I also have to give an honorable mention to the bickering between Anakin and Obi-Wan in this episode in particular. I love Anakin and Obi-Wan bickering. Please give me all the bickering. It was really good in this episode. This episode for me is giving a C vibe. To wrap up this duology, we watch the Gungan General, and we see Anakin and Obi-Wan taken prisoner as they are negotiating Dooku's ransom. They have to work together with Dooku to escape, and Jar Jar is their only hope for rescue. This episode was silly, it was chaotic, it was fun, it was enjoyable. Yeah, Dooku got away, but to be expected. I especially loved in this episode how Obi-Wan and Anakin bid farewell to the pirates. I appreciated that they did it in a friendly way and kind of went like, there's no harm, don't worry about it, even though they literally were captured and tied up and all the things. This episode is being rated a C, and friends, just because I'm rating episodes C's does not mean that I don't enjoy them. It's just that I enjoy them less than I enjoy the ones above them. All right, the next arc is the Aayla Secura duology, starting with Jedi Crash, and that results in us meeting her for the first time. We see that Aayla Secura is teaching Ahsoka the philosophy of having no personal attachments while Anakin is injured in battle. They brave a hostile planet in search of medical help for Anakin. I love Aayla. Love, 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 love. She's great. And I immediately recognized her as the Twi'lek in Revenge of the Sith that gets gunned down by the clones in Order 66, so that was fun to realize. I loved her interactions with Ahsoka, and she's voiced by the wonderful and beautiful Jennifer Hale, who is one of my favorite voice actors ever. This planet and the Lurmen are super unique, and I did enjoy this episode. That being said, I am rating it as a D, and the only reason I'm rating it as a D is because the next one is better, but still not high enough for me to rate it any higher. I hope my rating system makes sense. The end of the duology is an episode called Defenders of Peace, and in this one, the Separatists land near the Lurmen village, and the Jedi work to stop the weapon that they are testing from destroying the village. The Lurmen need to decide if they want to fight. I was very frustrated with the leader of the Lurmen village, Tiwatka, I think his name was. He was very, very, very stubborn, and it was pissing me off. While I'm happy that they thanked Anakin and everyone else after the battle was won and the village was left unharmed, I still don't know how I feel about them overall. This episode was way more entertaining for me than the first one, so this episode is being rated a C. The next arc in season 1 is a single episode arc called Trespass, and in this episode, Anakin and Obi-Wan are investigating the disappearance of a clone security force. Unfortunately, they get caught in the middle of an escalating conflict between the inhabitants of the planet and some greedy folks from a nearby moon. We were on a planet in this episode called Ortu Plutonia, and I loved this planet. We got thrust into a winter wonderland, and this episode was great. Senator Rio Chuchi, I don't know pronunciation, I can't remember. That character was amazing, and I kind of hope that we get to see them again at some point. The asshole Chicho was very, very, very annoying, and I did not like. Trespass was a very decent standalone episode, but I do have to rate this one a D relative to so many of the other episodes that I have seen. Following Trespass is another duology called the Blue Shadow Virus duology, and this one kicks off with the capture of Padme and Jar Jar, which occurs as they are searching for a secret separatist bioweapons lab. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka rush to save them while also trying to stop the release of a deadly virus, the Blue Shadow virus. I really enjoyed this episode for introducing something new that we have not seen before. I loved that the villain in this episode was like a mad scientist, evil doctor kind of guy, and I thought that the whole idea of this virus was really interesting, and the fact that it was going to be placed all across the galaxy to infect everyone. I am rating the Blue Shadow Virus episode as a C. Mystery of a Thousand Moons is the episode that wraps up this duology, and this episode opens up with the Blue Shadow Virus being released, which infects Ahsoka, Padme, and some clone troopers. Anakin and Obi-Wan have only 48 hours to find the antidote on a planet that nobody has ever returned from. And that planet is called Iago, and that was a very interesting planet, and Jabo was a very interesting kid. I loved all of the droids that he like fixed up to make run for himself. In the end, I was really happy to see that everyone recovered from the virus with no problem, and that the galaxy was safe from it. This duology in particular had me kind of finally realize and express just how much I appreciate that this show really dives into some like interesting stories. I'm relieved that the show wasn't just episode after episode after episode of battling the separatists and going after the separatists, etc., etc., etc. I'm very, very relieved that we have a ton of variety in this show, and this duology just really spoke out to me as the first time that we're like really veering off the path. This episode in particular, I rate as a B. And the final trilogy of season 1 has us focused on the planet of Ryloth in the Ryloth trilogy. This first episode, called Storm over Ryloth, Ahsoka directly disobeys Anakin's orders and loses most of her squad as a result, and this prompts Anakin to give Ahsoka a lesson.
Patience. Let's see what trickery the...
This guy kind of reminds me of Edna from The Incredibles.
Take heart, little one. That's the reality of command.
This might be my favorite scene between Anakin and Ahsoka so far. This episode was excellent for me. So good. It was very battle focused and battle heavy, but the interactions between Anakin and Ahsoka completely made up for that. I did enjoy the battle scenes. They were really fun, but I loved that connection and that conversation between them. The emotional repercussions of this episode were heavy, and I just thought that everything that went on was really beautiful for their development. The new plan that they had set in motion at the end of the episode also had me super excited to keep watching the trilogy. This episode is a super easy A rating for me, no questions asked. The middle episode of this trilogy is called Innocence of Ryloth, and in this one, Obi-Wan and a clone force land on Ryloth and discover that the Separatists are using the residents as a living shield, which is not good. This is so wholesome, I can't. It's so cute.
Waxer, let it go. I'm not just gonna let the droids get her.
Oh, Waxer's got a heart though.
Lara! Lara!
So, what is that she keeps calling us?
Nera. It means brother.
I had a feeling it was gonna mean like brother or friend or something like that. Ugh. All right, this is my first S tier episode. This episode was incredible. The relationship between Boyle and Waxer was excellent. When they met the little Twi'lek girl and started helping her out and keeping her safe, excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. It was so wholesome to see their interactions and to see them helping each other. And the overall rescue of the Twi'leks was also just wonderful. This was such a great episode, I can't even express. I really appreciated that they kind of put a focus on 2 clone troopers in this episode, 2 troopers that we really haven't had a ton of focus on yet. After watching this episode, I declared it the top episode out of all the ones that I had seen so far, so this one is a very easy S tier ranking for me. The last episode to close out this trilogy is Liberty on Ryloth, and in this one, Mace Windu needs to convince Twi'lek freedom fighter Chem Syndulla to help him save the capital city from the droids that are attacking it.
I hear you, Skywalker.
My fighters are taking out the bombers as fast as they can, Master Windu, but there are just too many.
I doubt we can stop them all. I suggest you get the people away from the cities.
You must destroy those bombers, Skywalker.
He literally just told you that he was probably not going to be able to get all of them, and you reply with, "You must get them all." I feel like we're getting a little bit of insight into the Windu-Anakin relationship with that. This bridge would freak me out so badly. Damn, Windu. This whole animation is so good. And the sound. Wow. This episode was a good one, and it was a very satisfying closure to the trilogy. I definitely felt that this Ryloth trilogy arc was the best arc that we've seen so far. For me, it was easily the best of season 1. I will say it was really nice to see Windu so involved in the fighting and actually being out and using his lightsaber and attacking people and like battling, because we don't see him do that in the films. The only time we see it is when he fights Palpatine and then ends up dying. Otherwise, he's just a part of the Jedi Council, just chilling in the chair. Oh, and we can't forget that he killed Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones. I did forget about that part. Yes, okay, I take that back. Liberty on Ryloth is another A-rated episode for me. Easy, easy. All right, the season 2 arcs kick off with the Holocron trilogy, and the first episode is the Holocron heist. And this episode, a bounty hunter named Cad Bane, who is hired by Darth Sidious, breaks into the Jedi Temple to steal an ancient Jedi holocron. I really enjoy storylines like this where there is stealing and infiltration and sneakiness and stealthiness. Easily my favorite my favorite character in this episode was, any guesses? Naturally, it was the little droid, Todo 360. I really liked him. Holocron Heist was a fun episode, but it was a slower start to the trilogy overall, so I am gonna rate this episode a very solid D. The next episode in this trilogy is called Cargo of Doom, and Anakin and Ahsoka work to retrieve the stolen holocron by intercepting Cad Bane's warship. Unfortunately, they underestimate his tactics. This episode was much more enjoyable for me than the first one. I will say the torturing of Jedi Master Ropal was awful though, really difficult to watch, and it broke my heart. I will admit that at the end of this episode, I was really confused about Cad Bane and like his fate, and that made me super eager and excited to wrap up the trilogy. My rating for this episode is a C. The end of this trilogy concludes with an episode called Children of the Force, and in this one, Darth Sidious requests that Cad Bane kidnap Force-sensitive children from across the galaxy and take them to Mustafar. This episode was the clear winner of this whole trilogy for me. I loved Just hit my microphone. I loved the scene between Anakin and Palpatine. That's the first time in this series that they've had a little chit chat, just the two of them in that room. And I think it was a great first step down their path together because we don't get a scene like that in Attack of the Clones. So technically, chronologically, I think this was the first time that they talked to each other on the screen. And it also was Anakin's first time on Mustafar. And little did he know that he'd end up getting back there eventually one day. I rate this episode a very firm B. After that trilogy, we return to another single episode arc called Bounty Hunters, and in this one, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka work together with 4 bounty hunters to protect a local farmer from Hondo and his gang of pirates. Y'all, this episode might have just been my favorite standalone episode up until this point. Visually, this episode really stood out to me. Now, I know that Clone Wars, the whole show, I know that there were animation improvements over time, and I remember people telling me that season 1 animation is definitely the most mediocre out of all the seasons. I think this episode was the first time that I could really tell the improvements of the animation from season 1 to season 2. This episode had good teamwork, a really good fight, and it was just enjoyable overall. As a result, I am giving this one a solid B rating. Up next in the Clone Wars Season 2 arcs is a duology called the Zillo Beast duology, and I was very curious to know what the heck a Zillo Beast was. In this first episode, a new super weapon for the Republic ends up waking up a Zillo Beast on Malastare, and the Jedi must work together to find a way to contain the creature. So the Zillo Beast surprised me. I was not expecting a creature that was literally skyscraper height and could basically be a Star Wars dragon. I love the unique creatures in Star Wars, so it made me so happy to see a Zillo Beast. I will say that this episode also stood out to me as an episode that just was miles ahead of episodes from season 1. While this was an enjoyable episode, I am going to rate this one a C because I know the episode that follows to close out this duology and how I want to rate that one. The episode closing out this duology is called The Zillo Beast Strikes Back, and as the title implies, the Zillo Beast escapes its hold in its chamber in Coruscant, and the Jedi have to decide between destroying the beast, which is the last of its kind, or saving millions of lives. And you can probably guess what happens. This is a really interesting episode. I'm loving the high focus on Palpatine for once. Oh my god, I was not expecting them to jump on the beast. Yo! Get her, get her, get her. Oh my god. Force. Why does the music have to be so emotional? This episode was an amazing episode to me, and I love how much Palpatine was in this one. I will say that the way the episode ended made me so mad at him. In addition to Palpatine, it was also really nice having so much involvement from every other main character in this show. I will say that the music in this episode really stood out to me as just being really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I also enjoyed how things were animated with the green gas specifically. I thought that was really cool and really well done. Honestly, just a super enjoyable episode for me, and I'm easily gonna rate this one an A. Very rewatchable and a really good time. All right, folks, the largest arc of the entire show has arrived, and that is the second Battle of Geonosis, which is a 5-episode arc in the middle of season 2. The first episode is called Senate Spy, and it kicks off with Padme going into spy mode by investigating a separatist conspiracy in the Senate. Folks, this episode was a joy for me to watch, and you're probably going to be surprised about my rating for this one, to be honest. I am so glad that we finally got to see some Anakin and Padme relationship stuff, because every episode thus far in this show, they have been very formal with each other, very respectful, not indicating that they are married. So it was really nice to finally see them alone on their own time, being romantic with each other. I just ate all that up. And I won't lie, I really enjoyed Clovis's character, and I kind of feel bad for him. I kind of feel bad that Padme was leading him on thinking that he had a chance with her again, but she was really just trying to uncover separatist stuff. I will say that it was really neat to see her interact with another man and someone from her past that she had past relationships with. It was just a great episode. I am rating this one as a B, a solid freaking B. Yep. The second episode in this arc is called Landing at Point Rain, and we jump right into a mission to destroy a droid factory on Geonosis. Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Kid Adi-Mundi are leading the troopers. This was such a battle-heavy episode with very minimal dialogue that I don't have a ton to say about it. This episode definitely gave me those Episode 2 Attack of the Clones vibes because that battle was on Geonosis, and now we're back on Geonosis having another battle. So it was very, very similar, and as a result, for me, it is mostly a forgettable episode. I am sorry to those of you that probably love this episode. Please accept my apologies. I just think that there's so many other episodes that are superior. As a result, I'm going to rate this one a D. The arc continues with an episode called Weapons Factory, and in this episode, Luminara and Anakin act as decoys to divert super tanks, and the two Padawans, Barriss Offee and Ahsoka, work to destroy the Separatist droid factory. So while this was another battle-heavy episode, there were a lot of wholesome moments in this episode that completely made it more enjoyable for me. Ahsoka nearly dying was very worrisome, but I knew that she wasn't actually going to die, so it was fine in the end. This episode also had a fantastic conversation about the Jedi attachment and really diving into the emotional relationship between masters and their Padawans. I am rating this episode a C. The fourth episode in this arc is called Legacy of Terror, and Obi-Wan and Anakin are leading clones to search for the missing Luminara. The search leads them into a mysterious lair, and the Jedi are faced with a bunch of undead warriors that they have to fight against. 100% the grossest Clone Wars episode so far. It was nasty, it was icky, but it was still enjoyable. I'll give it that. So for that, I will rate this one a C. Brain Invaders is the final episode in this Clone Wars arc, and it takes us to Ahsoka and Barriss dealing with Geonosian brain worms who have taken control of their supply ship, and they have to work to stop it from unleashing the plague. What an ending for this huge arc that I was not expecting in any way, shape, or form. I expected that we were going to have trials going on. I could never have predicted this. It was another gross episode with parasitic worms and people sick and a plague and That being said, I really enjoyed how this episode was animated. I thought that the way that the frozen ice cold was animated was really good. All in all, it was a very entertaining episode and provided some really good closure to this beefy arc. This episode, I am definitely rating a B. The next arc in Season 2 is called Pursuit of Grievous, and it is another duology with a heavy Grievous focus. In the first episode, called Grievous Intrigue, Jedi Master Eth Koth is taken hostage and tortured by General Grievous. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Adi Gallia decide to go on a rescue mission, but Grievous has plans of his own, because of course he does. All I have to say about this episode is that any duel with Grievous and a space battle involving him is going to be entertaining to me. As a result, this episode is a C. And to wrap up this duology, we watch an episode called The Deserter, and Obi-Wan lands with Cody and Rex on Saleucami. I think I'm saying that right. They are searching for General Grievous, but Rex ends up getting injured, and he is taken to a farm by some other clone troopers, and it is there that he encounters a clone deserter.
In range.
No.
Take the shot.
No.
Protect the captain!
Oh.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
It is. Oh my god.
Daddy, you're home.
This is so cute. Oh my god.
I'll take care of them. Thank you.
I love this episode so much. Bam. This is an episode that completely shocked me, and I loved it. Loved it. I loved the focus on Rex in this episode because he is one of my favorite clone troopers. And it was so amazing getting to meet a clone who opted to not be a clone and go out on his own and find a woman and marry her and adopt her kids basically as his own. And it... so good. I loved Cut. I loved his family. I thought the episode was engaging. It was fun, and it was a whole new thing that we haven't really experienced yet. This episode is a super, super easy S rating for me. I will watch this episode a million times over. I don't care. After Pursuit of Grievous, we encounter another standalone episode that involves Ahsoka's lightsaber being stolen off of her by a pickpocketer, and she works with an ancient Jedi called Tera Sinube to get her lightsaber back. This episode is naturally called Lightsaber Lost. Wow. Oh yeah, this isn't... Jesus. Yes, let's go.
For a guy that moves slow, you always seem to get ahead of me.
I love this guy so much. Some of these standalone episodes are really incredible and very entertaining, and I love them. This one was another action-packed one that had me super engaged and super excited and just very much in love with the show. I feel like these episodes are a good opportunity for the writers to just really explore stories that they maybe don't have a chance to otherwise. This episode also reminded me a lot of episode 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the TV show, just simply by the location. Just want to make that clear. I really enjoyed Sanube's character, and I was told that Sanube does make an appearance in the TV show Obi-Wan Kenobi, which was heartbreaking when I found that out. The last thing about this episode that I liked was I really liked that we had a focus on Ahsoka without Obi-Wan or Anakin kind of like as her shadow looking over her shoulder. It was nice to just kind of have her on her own doing her own thing, even though it was her having to get her lightsaber back, which was very stressful, but it was still fun. Super enjoyable episode that I easily rate an A. And the next trilogy in season 2 of the Clone Wars is the Mandalore trilogy. Let's heckin' go. Before I even say anything, I thank everyone on my Patreon who had signed up for these exclusive reactions. We were waiting so patiently for me to get to this trilogy, and I completely understand why. In this first episode called The Mandalore Plot, we meet the amazing Duchess Satine of Mandalore. There are rumors of conspiracy surrounding her, and Obi-Wan works to uncover the truth.
I didn't kill him.
I know. That's why I'm still talking to you.
I love her.
Think of me as searching for solutions.
I have to tell you, I'm opposed to all of this.
I'd be disappointed if you weren't.
I love Obi-Wan so much. He's so great. Great.
Where exactly are you?
Listen for the loud metallic clanging sound. That would be the machine about to smash me into bits.
And yet I still haven't heard any thanks.
Well, you certainly haven't changed much.
Can I ship these two? Because I want to ship these two. I fell in love with Duchess Satine literally upon meeting her, and in this first episode, I was shipping her and Obi-Wan like crazy. I thought that Obi-Wan was being very flirty, and she was kind of being the same way back, and they just looked really good together, and they sounded good together, and they were just vibing really good together, and I was sitting here like, I ship them. I ship them, I ship them, I don't care. They are awesome together. I also love the planet of Mandalore and how it looks. I did mention in my reaction at some point that I thought the planet reminded me of Minecraft. With everything being cubey and blocky. This episode is definitely a B rating for me. The middle episode of this trilogy is called Voyage of Temptation, and in this one, the Jedi and the Clone Troopers work to defend Duchess Satine from assassination attempts. Anakin also uncovers a bit of the history that Obi-Wan and Satine have together.
I sense some anxiety from you about the Duchess. She couldn't be in safer hands.
Yes, I know.
Then why?
Never mind. It's all in the past.
Oh, so you're close to her.
I knew her a long time ago.
Wait, is the reason I ship them because they had a thing? No fucking way. Oh my god.
Senators, I presume you are acquainted with the collection of half-truths and hyperbole known as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh my god.
Your Highness is too kind.
You're right. I am.
Allow me.
Anakin's like,
Oh, the sarcasm of a soldier.
The delusion of a dreamer.
Anakin's fucking smirk is killing me. This is adorable though.
Obi-Wan, it looks like I may never see you again. I don't know quite how to say this, but I've loved you. From the moment you came to my aid all those years ago.
Oh my god.
I don't believe
Oh my god.
Satine, this is hardly the time or place for...
Just Obi-Wan.
Had you said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order.
You what? Oh my god, no.
Who will strike first and brand themselves a cold-blooded killer?
Anakin. Of course. Anakin's so chill about that. I'm so annoyed at Obi-Wan that he didn't immediately say it back and was just like, now's not the time or the place. Like, come on. She thought she was dying. It's the perfect time and place.
I'm still not sure about the beard.
Why? What's wrong with it?
It hides too much of your handsome face.
Oh, that's sweet. It was so funny that I was shipping Obi-Wan and Satine in the first episode because this episode completely told me that I was correct to be shipping them together because they do actually have a history. What an incredible episode. I loved this one so much. This episode makes me want a spin-off series where Obi-Wan never became a Jedi and him and Satine are just living their best life. I know that will never happen, but a girl can dream. I will just make up a spin-off series in my brain and dream about them at night because I want them to be together forever. Okay. This episode completely catered to the romantic in me, and this episode contains one of the best Obi-Wan lines in the entire heckin' franchise. And that was the line where he said,
Had you said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order.
Heartbreaking, amazing. I love Obi-Wan. This episode, no questions, no contest. This is an S tier episode. Absolutely. S tier. To wrap up this awesome trilogy, we have the episode called Duchess of Mandalore, and in this episode, Duchess Satine finds out that the Death Watch is going to invade, and she tries to convince the Senate that the Death Watch does not represent the entire Mandalorian government. This is a very political heavy episode that was not as good as that middle episode, but it was still very enjoyable. I also really love that this episode highlighted that Palpatine is just so good at playing both sides of things. I don't know how he does it. That is why he is such a fantastic villain. Just like the first episode in this trilogy, I am going to mark this one as a B rating. And friends, the final arc of season 2 is Boba Fett's Revenge, and based on the title alone, I was really looking forward to this one. In this opening episode called Death Trap, we see a very young Boba Fett attempt to kill Mace Windu with a bomb in his quarters as revenge for the death of his father, Jango Fett. So this episode was the start of some really great backstory for Boba Fett, which I just completely ate up. I also appreciated that we had some focus on some younger clones because that's the first time that we've had them kind of appear and show up in this show so far. I'm also very intrigued by Aura Singh. Even though she's not a great person because she is a bounty hunter, I do kind of like her vibe. I love her makeup, I love her hair, I just kind of love how she is. She's an interesting enemy. I enjoyed this episode and I'm rating it a B. In the middle episode of this trilogy called R2 Come Home, the bounty hunters are leading Anakin and Mace to Vancor and a deadly trap. It then ends up R2's responsibility to get himself back to Coruscant to warn the rest of the Jedi to go rescue them. For me, this episode was so great because we got another focus on R2, my favorite boy, well, my second favorite boy. I also really appreciate the bit of bonding that we're getting between Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker, especially because of the terribleness that happens in Revenge of the Sith. It's breaking my heart that we're getting so much depth and relationship building between those two, and this wasn't even the first episode that happened in. This episode for me is an easy A. I really enjoyed this one. And wrapping up this trilogy, we have an episode called Lethal Trackdown, and in this one, Commander Pons and Admiral Killian need to be rescued. Since Anakin and Windu are healing up from their trappedness, it's up to Ahsoka and Plo Koon to rescue them. This episode was really great for me because it showed me that there is still some good in Boba. He had never intended for this mission to escalate the way that it did, to involve so many people and casualties. The kid literally just wanted revenge against Windu for the death of his father. And may I just say that I also loved that the pirates made another appearance. I'm expecting them to show up in many more episodes in the future. Hopefully they do. This episode is going into the B slot. So there you have it. That is some insight on what I thought of the first 2 seasons of the Clone Wars show. Overall, I think it's clear that I liked season 2 a lot more than season 1, but that was to be expected because I had been told that the earlier seasons of Clone Wars are a little bit of a slog to get through and that the meat and best episodes of the show are in the later seasons. So I'm just really excited to keep watching. I'm excited to get to those. It's going to be such a good time. I am having so much fun. Once again, if you want to join me in watching along to this amazing show, come join us on Patreon. You'll get immediate access to all the episodes that I've watched so far, and as long as you remain pledged, you'll get access to all the ones coming down the pipe in the future. You'll also get access to my reactions to Stranger Things 4, which are happening right now, as well as any other shows that I put out in the future, which will include Bad Batch, Rebels, The Book of Boba Fett, and The Mandalorian. Those will start as soon as the Clone Wars is over. And if you're still here watching this, can you please let me know what you thought of this video? I have never made a video like this before, and it was a fun challenge for me, and I'm really hoping that it turned out okay. Obviously, since you're watching this right now, it means that I was okay with what I put out, but I always appreciate feedback, so please let me know what you thought of this. And to wrap up this video, if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, please click here to do so, and if you would like to keep on watching, please click over here. Thank you so much for watching this video with me today, and we will see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.